athletes as creators, don't think it's going anywhere. If anything, it's going to happen more and more.
The reality is these people are now becoming media companies.
Yeah.
And that's where we're seeing the real attention shift happening.
People connect with people on a personal level.
The athletes have always been part of sports media, but now they're becoming even more intertwined. They're beginning to replace other parts of media. I think that's probably a bit of tension.
Welcome to The Attention Shift, a podcast where sports media gets debated like a VAR decision, passionately, longer than it should, and with none of us fully agreeing on the outcome. What if athletes didn't just play the game, they owned it? From OnlyFans to billion-dollar brands, welcome to The Attention Shift.
You missed your vocation.
This might take a few months
I'm
to not laugh
envisaging
at the
you.
intro.
Now I'm envisaging you behind the decks in some kind of sequin.
Leave it all in. Leave it all in, Mark. Mark, leave it in.
Yeah, leave it in. Right, okay. So this episode we're going to talk about athlete media, which means anything from athletes as creators, athletes as producers. Fun fact, Kobe Bryant is the only athlete ever to win an Oscar.
Wow.
I just read that.
That is a fun fact.
With an animated short called Dear Basketball in 2017.
Okay.
There's been a few that have tried acting, of course. But
some good, some not so good.
yeah.
What I would say on Kobe, actually, not that there was ever part of any script that we've done here now, you've actually said that. If you go back and look at some of the Nike ads, and you're going back a while, probably 10, 15 years, some of the very best ones that they've ever done, Kobe's in them, and he acts in them brilliantly.
Yeah.
Richard Branson's in one with him as well. There's one where he's doing a lecture. Look it up on YouTube. There you go.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Find them and put them in the show notes.
So, but it's good context because clearly athletes have always been part of sports media, but now they're becoming even more intertwined. They're beginning to replace other parts of media. I think that's probably a bit of tension. But what's your view on athletes as creators? Are they a good thing?
Yes. Short answer, end of episode.
Are they a good thing, and why? Because obviously there's downsides.
Okay. Well, I think it's actually good that you brought the Nike thing up, I think, for a start.
Nike.
Nike, sorry. I'm English, we call it Nike. But I think you brought up that there's always been brand ambassadors for Adidas and Adidas and other brands, and they've always done that. But I think now the formula has really gone further and really changed, where if you look at historically, social media following, or like Ronaldo leaves, joins Juventus, leaves Juventus, the impact that's had on that. That was kind of the start of, fans following players around and following, people that are invited, which they've really wanted to see, and the impact that had on these brands. But he's now gone that one step further, and I think that's what we're going to deep dive into more of today, which is when they become the content creators, when they are the media business for you and an extension of your historic media rights.
So we're talking about a shift in power, really, because it's all well and good when your athletes are under your control and they're your ambassadors, but you direct them, they give them a script, tell them what to do and when and how. But now, driven by creators on YouTube who have largely disintermediated those gatekeepers and gone direct to the audience, now athletes are borrowing from that. It's far more difficult for the teams and the leagues that employ them to put those restrictions on them. And is that a risk?
I don't think it is a risk. I think often what we lack from sportsmen and women, for a variety of reasons, and it may be because they're being managed by their clubs, right, or their teams, is that personality, that interaction that people create, like actually understanding who they are. But I think, look, I see it as a massive opportunity, and I don't think one's independent of the other or one cannibalizes the other. And I think a friend of mine, Simon Evans, who has a great podcast called The Soccer Business, and again, we'll put that in show notes. Give Simon a big plug on that. He did an interview last week actually with Rio Ferdinand, and Rio's obviously coming away from TNT Sports. Recently, obviously, he's not renewed his contract with them because actually he wants to go direct to consumer, creating his own content channels. And look, he was doing this when he was playing at Man U, so it's not a new thing for him, but he's realised the potential of it. He talked very, very well on the podcast with Simon about how he's very much in listening mode at the moment. He's looking at all ways of doing things. He was out, when Man United were touring, he was doing stuff on his phone. He's trying lots and lots of different formats. He's been doing a lot of really well shot one-to-one interviews with lots of former Man United players and the boss, Sir Alex, as well, recently as well. And I think he's showing that there are loads of ways that you can create the right kind of content and give an insight that's not time restricted or time dependent to fans and distribute it however you want to distribute it.
Yeah.
He said himself, right, kind of like, look, right, great to be working with TNT or whoever else he's working with, because that's a massive platform for him. But there is always restriction about how long you can talk about something, how deep you can go with something, what you can talk about.
And
now he's got freedom.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Who needs who most at this moment in time? Do the broadcasters or the leagues need the athletes to be creators more, or do the athletes still need that support from TNTs or the league? Because I think it's going this way.
Yeah, I think generally you're right. I think it's actually the athletes have more power than they realise, right? You know, we've got some great stats that we can dive into on this. But I think it depends on the league in terms of how flexible you are with this. You know, like there is still, if you look at the Women's World Cup, Women's Euros that just happened recently, the Lioness has done a great job about social media. They also talked openly and honestly about mental health issues, racism, loads of big subjects that were important to the team, important to the players, that really resonated, regardless of the debate. And that's probably a whole different episode of our podcast. But that really resonated with fans and brought people into their journey and brought them into and actually grew that audience. And I think that's a good example. There's other examples where I think, there's still a lot of people trying to control the narrative around that. You've got Caitlin Clark, who's made a massive difference to, I'm going to pull some stats here for the WNBA, right? And she is, she's the reason people are watching the WNBA at the moment. But is the league supporting her? No, not really. No, not at all, right? Like, let's be honest about it. She's got 3.2 million Instagram followers, so second in the WNBA. 380% increase in video views this season because of her. 3.2 million reels plays per video. On TikTok, she's increased her TikTok followers by 61% in 1 month, up to 2.29 Instagram and TikTok followers. These are crazy numbers, and this is someone you could build a league around. Like in the old days they did with Jordan, built the league around Michael Jordan, and they're not doing it. And who's going to lose?
But there have been a lot of problems in the WNBA as well, and obviously there was I'd love to say sex toys on a podcast.
That's great.
So there were sex toys thrown on the court in the WNBA game. Caitlin Clark has almost become a hated figure within the WNBA because of her sheer scale. Like there's almost so like powerful. A jealousy, that people are having towards her because of her success, which is madness, right? Because ultimately it should be building the WNBA, and for exactly what you said. So she's become a victim of her own success now, and kind of like you don't know where to go with it.
Well, she'll end up leaving. She'll end up going to another league, I think. That's inevitable. What's going to happen.
But that's the negative side of it. Coming back to the positive again, just because when I think about it with my kids' media hat on, they can go onto YouTube and they can see these creators and they get that unfiltered access. They see all the crap they have to put up with. But also they see the successes and the celebrations. And I've worked really hard, but now I'm successful. Or perhaps a training session didn't go so well, but actually by being candid and open and honest about that teaches kids the values of resilience. Dusting yourself down, you get up and you go again. And actually that's where I think athletes as creators can be really useful for the future of the game, for participation, for growing something like women's sport again. And actually that's a really positive message to give to young people in their approach to sport, whether they become elite athletes or just hobbyists. So for me it's really important.
It is important. I think it's important. We talked about Drive to Survive and other things now, which is, which people are leaning into much more now around that storytelling. We talk about this all the time about, the auxiliary content, if you like, around YouTube and getting that honesty. But that's people connect with people on a personal level. Ed, you've talked about NASCAR before, about the drivers actually being quite boring, but that's actually kind of interesting.
But that's really, look, I've been lucky enough to go to a NASCAR race as well, and if anyone gets a chance, it's probably one of the greatest sporting experiences I've ever had in my life. Just the sheer noise and it's very unique, but the driver, the driver we met was like so polite, just had so much time, willing to answer questions, like stupid questions from Brits about NASCAR mainly, but went into real detail about tyres and all the things that we know nothing about. And I don't see that in the same kind of way in football. Look, and I know football's big in comparison, but in the part of the world where they do NASCAR, they are the Premier League footballers.
Yeah.
But they go, they go out of their way to go and spend times, where the fans are with all of their motorhomes, and like people see them as it's like someone they know.
Yeah.
And there's a real connection there. Yeah. And look, it'd be interesting as that scales over time. Does that change? But you feel like I have a connection at the moment.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think this they call it parasocial relationship, don't they, with creators on YouTube?
This like you feel like you know them, but you don't.
Yeah. This parasocial relationship with athletes can be really, really powerful. It can be powerful not just for kids and getting into sport and actually showing what sport is, hard work, particularly if you get to elite level. I think there's also, let's face it, for a lot of athletes, once their playing career is over, a lot of them feel like they are jettisoned by the very business that has brought them that fame. But actually, by starting to build a community as they're a player and through their elite playing status, surely that kind of safeguards their future too.
Well, they've got such a finite career, right? And you're right, Jen. The stats back this up, right? Snapchat have their athlete connections program. And they've done analysis on this. They said 90% of fans feel closer to athletes that they follow. Through going for these sorts, specifically on Snapchat and the Snap platforms. 89% remember brands in sports content that these days. So there's a monetary return for this, not just for the athletes, but for the clubs and associations. And 86 show more loyalty to those brands. So if you've got a rising star in your portfolio or in your club or wherever it is in your league, and you're in that sort of portfolio of players, this makes a real difference. And I think this is the connections that we're seeing. And I think it started with your Cristiano Ronaldo's, your Messi's of the world, and your Kobe Bryant's. This is where it kind of started, but I think it's now that one step further.
Oh, it's evolved.
Yeah, and I think
sure,
you've talked about Ilona Mayer before, and the impact that she's had on rugby,
and the Kelsey brothers as well. I mean, it's interesting. For the Kelsey brothers, before too long, actually, they'll be known by young sports fans only as ex-athletes, but actually they'll mean more to them as creators, and that's a really interesting shift. And Ilona Mayer too. I mean, she's still playing, but she's building a real solid foundation in media. She's got a podcast with her sisters. They talk about all manner of things. Her career after will have a different phase. She'll be an ex-athlete, but actually she'll have built the foundations for that while she's in her playing career. And I don't see that that's such a bad thing if you want to try and plant some seeds for what comes after.
Oh, definitely not. I mean, the one I was just thinking about actually was bizarrely was Emma Raducanu. Was someone who had success very quickly, obviously winning the US Open, got all these big brand deals. Doesn't really. Not that I've seen in terms of, sort of the social following or that engagement that we're talking about, that sort of like creating your own media brand. Obviously, the success in the court has not been as great. It's picking up recently. Is that the other end? Is that the word? And I've got some other examples about, we talk about the OnlyFans play.
I felt like after sex toys, I need to go to the OnlyFans web.
Yeah, so we can talk about that in a minute. But I do feel like there's someone who got embraced from a brand perspective, but maybe not from
but probably distracted her from performance. And she would argue the other way. But the reality is all the brands piled in on it.
So is that a negative? Is there a negative? So there's one thing we're talking about.
Well, yeah. What happens when it goes wrong?
Right? Yeah, we're talking about athletes. Actually, I guess what we're saying ultimately is that having athletes as media or brand ambassadors, it's like give them free reign, let them be them, and it's going to be the best thing that's beneficial ultimately in the long term for you as a league or a club or whatever. But then you've got, I guess this is a more an individual layer, as a person, that she did get all that success and did get all that. And what does that mean? What does that mean? Like you said, has it ruined her career a bit?
It's not ruined. I think because she's got a long way to go, right? And she seems to be improving a lot, and I hope she does as well. Because I think, I think British tennis needs her to do well. I think we would love to see that, but I think it's probably in a lot of ways early on. Perhaps it's slowed her development down. Look, it's hard, right? When you go and win a major, a slam like that, like everything after that's not going to be as good. It doesn't. Yes. Even if you go, it's just not. So I think probably slowed her down a little bit, but it feels like, you know, she's young, right? We've all. Yeah. It's hard growing up, especially when you're in the limelight she's in. She's had a lot of challenges as well with stuff that's gone on as well. So I think it's going to take time. I just want to come back actually on the Kelsey brothers as well, because obviously I've taken a lot of interest in what they do and got to know Brian Verne, who runs Wave, that produces that podcast as well. And I was lucky enough to see them not this year, last year in Cannes, where they did a keynote speech. Well, it's a keynote chat basically on Sports Beach. And after hearing Jason Kelsey talk, and didn't really know much about him because like NFL's not my game, didn't realise that he's got a degree in marketing. Like, this guy's a marketeer that just happened to play NFL. Yeah. Like, and his brother Travis has said, like, you know, I do what Jason tells me. Like, because this guy knows how to do marketing. And then you look at Ryan Reynolds, and Ryan Reynolds
who's a master marketer.
Yeah. Like, and he was speaking at Cannes like the year before. Yeah. And he did have the keynote speech to the event. He's a marketeer. Like, but these two it's a masterclass of how to be authentic and real. And obviously Taylor Swift, she announced the album, didn't she, on their podcast this week? I don't know if they did it as a live or it was a podcast that got released, but so she's lent into that too. And like, they've gone from sport to culture.
Of course, like, they have
all the other way.
Yeah, but at what point does sport, i.e. a league or a broadcaster, get uncomfortable with that? When they get too big, I don't
think there's anything they can do about it, and I think they've just got to roll with it and dive in. I think it's just, the reality is the sportsmen and women now be getting to the point where they're understanding their worth, and if I just don't think they'll let teams and league try to buy that out of them.
Well, you say that though. We on a micro level, you know, we have clubs contacting people saying you shouldn't post this and shouldn't do that,
and we're just a little podcast.
But you know what I mean? On a brand level, the point I'm trying to make ultimately is that some of them have the freedom to do this stuff, and you can see it's successful. Others are so tight about their voice and who says what and what they do. Are they their own worst enemies, or like to your point,
I would say yes. But
is it gonna be? Is this clash? When does it change, and how? What's the impact of that change?
I mean, this is something that I've mused about before. Is when you see there was an up and coming NBA star who, on their journey to elite athlete status, had created a community across social platforms, and along the way, as athletes are wont to do, was offered, you know, creative director role at a sneaker company, and really happened to like them. It's the kind of thing that they do, right? Yeah. At what point? Because then when you start getting to the big leagues, you have to become an athlete that wears this other brand of shoe in certain situations. At some point, there'll be an athlete that says, I ain't doing that. One, because my loyalty, and maybe I've got a stake in a business over here, so it's in my best interest to wear their sneakers all the time. But also, my audience who know me and know how I've extolled the virtues of this sneaker, know I'm going to be fake when I turn up in those ones. And actually, that's going to do me more harm than good. So then you've got a tension.
That is the clash, right? And the other thing is that, like you said about that journey of big players, you know, this probably is a time to pull out the OnlyFans card.
Please do, Luke.
I'm glad you were able to do that research on your own internet connection.
That's the attention shift after dark version,
and not on the display internet connection.
But I think that there's the two examples. Obviously, the first one obviously was the rower who was trying to fund his canoeist, who was trying to fund his Olympic dream.
I thought that was absolutely ridiculous.
Yes.
And I think I think we need to do a whole episode about athletes and the cost of, you know, trying to participate.
There's an whole episode about
OnlyFans.
Karen Edwards.
Can I do the homework on that one?
Yeah, you're going to do the homework on that one.
Karen Edwards, if you want to come on and talk about it, we're all ears.
But it's, you know, again, it's someone who, Kyra Edwards is, you know, diversity, inclusiveness in a predominantly white, you know, old school sport, trying to fund his way into the Olympics, and then for all that to happen. And then even on the less sexy side, let's say, of the OnlyFans spectrum, you know, the cricketer who wanted to put...
He's going to love you for that.
Yeah, no. Tyrone Mills, I'm sorry, you're the less sexy cricketer. But he is the first pro cricketer on OnlyFans. But again, he's fully clothed, and it's about, you know, match reflections, drills, his personal commentary, and he was.
Well, isn't that what OnlyFans was originally meant to be about?
It was.
Fans.
Yeah. If you don't do an OnlyFans, right? I'm genuinely asking. If you don't do something like that on OnlyFans, where that's your mechanism to make money from your content, where do you go and do it?
Exactly.
If you're an
Where
athlete,
else? Yeah.
an individual.
Yeah, like Patreon or something.
Postcard.
Yeah.
Like Patreon, we talked about Patreon, and obviously Jack Conte.
Crowdfunding? Is that the
crowdfunding? But like, you know, if you think of Cara Edwards, like they get paid an absolute pittance to do what they do. And I know that like no one has to do them that and it's lottery funding, but like they've got to spend 10, 15, 20 years of their life earning next to nothing, not even anywhere close.
No, it doesn't feel fair.
Like, how do you function? Where's the motivation?
Yeah.
Because there's only 3 people who get medals.
Yeah.
Well, exactly.
Yeah, no, it's a great
And
point.
even then, like in rowing, I'd argue you're not going to be a millionaire then on the back of medal. I think it's a struggle, right?
I mean, how many famous rowers can you name that in this?
Steve
in the last,
well, that's it. But that's where we go back to, isn't it? Matthew Pitson.
In the last, this
Catherine.
tenure,
I can't remember her surname.
Yeah, but you know what I mean?
No, I think it's a great point.
And
I don't think it's fair to basically kneecap them from earning, to give themselves, 1, a shot at doing what they love, and 2, a life and being able to pay a mortgage thereafter.
No, I get and that's the thing. I get, well, that's, if you take the Tyrone Mills example, which is, you know, wants to put the OnlyFans logo on his back, right? So I get you don't want, you know, there's brand responsibilities, there's sponsorship deals in the 100, etc. And I get it's a family-friendly audience, but if you think about what he was doing, specifically his content, if you take the OnlyFans reputation out of it, you know, there's nothing wrong with it. And where's that line? Where does that line blur? You know, there's so much control over what sponsorship you can wear, what you have to wear, as you were just talking about, Joe, or when, you know, who you should wear and when you promote stuff. These guys are the people that people show up for. If there's no players, if there's no athletes, there's no game, there's no match, there's no race, there's no rowing. You know, these are the people who really make the difference and actually make you want to watch it.
Yeah.
And the deeper you can build that connection to them, that only makes you more super fans, which makes you want to buy the merchandise. It makes you want to buy their shirt. And it's like this new model, if you're not going to embrace it, there's going to be pushback, or there's going to be separation of leagues. You know, there's going to be, you know, like the rumours of...
I think if look, whether you want to pick Kyra or you want to pick Tyler, right, if suddenly another 20 or 30 top sports people in and around those sports start doing the same, I think that the federations or the league have got a problem, because I think then you start getting a bit of a tide, and look, it's taken them to say, this is the way that I can make money, because ultimately what I'm potentially earning is not enough, or there's opportunity for me to, like, why should they be stopped to do that? It'd be interesting to see if other people pile in and try and do it too, but I've not seen anything on the back of Cara Edwards, quite frankly.
Well, I mean, the players, I guess that kind of leads nicely into the other, the Players TV, which is that athlete-owned media platform.
Yeah.
You know, it was they raised $3 million from 2,000, just over 2,000 fans. Its latest valuations were nearly 50 million. It's got, again, raised another 10 million from half of the fans that they're watching it. 70 plus athlete owners across NBA, NFL, WNBA, MLB, and you know, they've got fan shareholders. So now these guys are broken away. They're athletes who are personalities. They've created their own media company. They've now got fans with joint ownership into it. Yeah. So you now got this, you know, this perfect storm, if you like, of where it could break away. And if more people really tap into that, then, you know, your old leagues and old clubs and federations, where are you going to stand? If you're an old broadcaster, you've got no chance.
Well, you think about how creators and athletes, athlete creators, I should say, have the most unique voice and viewpoint on the sport, whether they're commentating on the sport that they played, or actually some might be a fan of another sport and be quite proficient in it and want to talk about it. If you're a fan and you're one of those fans that's been asked to subscribe over here and subscribe over there, and your subscription service, most of it you don't watch, but actually then you've got Bryson DeChambeau and a load of other creators going, well, hey, you can come and own part of this this channel, this platform, and we're going to give our take on it. I'm already sold. I would watch that. You know, and we've got Bryson DeChambeau sharing duels. Wow. We were talking about that.
I was just literally going to talk about, because I think
so. At some point, they are distributors, broadcasters, athlete creators as broadcasters.
But think about what's driven Bryson to, like, because obviously, do you know when the players went into Live, right? They were the players who went to lead each individual team, and for the life of me, I can't remember the name of his team. So okay, thank you.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
The idea was that Live obviously paid them to come in there, but then they were given a team, and that Live were then funding that the operations of that team for a period of time, and then ultimately they'd have to stand on their own 2 feet. Now, I think it was for the first 3 years.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's been enforced yet, because I think...
Well, the contract's up for renewal.
Okay.
So they're all the major players now, like your Rams, your Brysons, and their contracts are due up for renewal now. So
Brighton, like, if Liverpool, like, if still Liverpool all in, like, Brighton's not going anywhere, right? But the thing is now is, like, you know, yes, he's invested over $1 million, I think he said, like, with a team of 10 creating his content. But they reckon he's earning anywhere between $9 and $11 million a year from the content he's creating. So ultimately, then, like, whatever Liv's paying him has just gone up, because he's actually worked out to turn the thing he was given into a viable business, but probably not in the way that it was thought about in the first place.
Completely.
Well, you think what he's done for Liv, you know, Liv Golf, apart from the sort of upset that it really originally caused, like, he is now being their biggest marketing growth driver, right? Like, you know,
like Baller League.
Yeah, exactly.
The creators have helped build Baller League.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They own, these are the people that bring people and grow in their audience. You primarily using YouTube as a primary channel, or using TikTok or Instagram, or they're funny, you know, showing the side of the personality that people want to see. That, you know, I still remember the old, you know, the classic Premier League interviews, you know, from the late 90s, early 2000s. You know, it was a good game. You know,
have we changed that much?
No,
they really haven't.
These players like Maddison that like to do stuff, but it's a very, very small amount of players who actually lean in and show their personality and what they love and what.
I mean, gosh, the only way they used to show their personality was on the odd time when they'd try and sneak Wham songs into interviews. That was as crazy as it got.
Yeah, can you imagine the Premier League if we did like the, you know, the walk-ins like they're in the NFL and they're all dressed with weird hats and stuff like that? I mean, we hate it, right? Because it's not our culture But they've really lent into that in the US, and that's become a whole thing in itself now. And I think, you know, when they see something like that becomes a trend, like the US is just built to just lean into it. Like, we just don't seem to be able to find a way to lean into any of that here. I think as far as we've got from a personnel perspective is certain players being gamers. Yeah. And you see quite a bit of that, and they do that off their own bat, and they do connect with the fans in that way, and you know, you can find certain ones that
especially the younger players now are much more
intriguing. Trent was doing a lot of that, wasn't he, when he was at Liverpool? I'm sure he still is now. He's at Madrid, so
and the ones that have been open about their fandoms, like we were talking about Noah Lyles. He's a big fan of anime. Yeah, pulling out the Yu-Gi-Oh cards in the trials. You've got Dominic Solanke who does salutes, Naruto salutes when he celebrations when he scores.
Just for your anime.
Yeah. But it does. It's a connection. Yeah. It is a connection. It's a passion that they have that's not necessarily related to what they do, but allows them to build a connection. But there's only so far you can build that connection when you're doing it down the lens of a camera pitch side. But if they're creators and they go, I mean, this is one of the things that iShowSpeed talks about. He's a big gamer. He loves One Piece. He also loves football. 3 things that brings 3 different sets of fans together and connects them to him. That's why he's so powerful. But athletes are the same. So there's a real opportunity there.
So how would we unlock this? If you're a league or club or a federation, what would you be saying? How would you say, support your players?
I'd vote for chaos.
I vote for chaos too. I once suggested this on LinkedIn. Henry, who's the young rugby player?
Oh, yeah.
I once suggested
Any suggestions from the crowd? No,
yeah.
Henry, we can't remember his name.
At this point in his career, I suggested he should
must know, Harry.
become
What's Henry's surname? Thank you.
Pollock. Correct. Thank you,
Harry.
Suggested that it might be time for him now to start a YouTube channel to document his career. And I got tons of comments back on my LinkedIn post going, no, he's there to play rugby. He's it would distract him. But actually, it might also bring thousands of potential young fans into rugby and even maybe playing it again. So, I get this.
They need support and guard. You know, you do need, you need protection. No, you need a level of protection.
I think I was having a chat. I was having a chat to a sports federation today, and we're talking about maybe going in and doing a talk for some of the organisations that are part of that organisation, right, without giving any names. And I was just talking about, look, right, like the reality is the world has changed, and certainly we get down to grassroots level, the media footprint that was once there before my local level just doesn't exist anymore. So they're not doing what you need to do anymore. They're not getting your message out there.
No.
And the only people that can do it really are creators, and there's plenty of them. It doesn't matter how big or small that sporting organisation is, right? Like, so, You've got to embrace it, but you need rules and regs how you're going to do it, and you've got also to get those creators to agree to, look, if I'm going to give you access, I'm not saying don't be critical, but be respectful.
Yes.
And we will give you access because ultimately I know that you can help to push my message out. And you know what? If you help me to sell X, Y, and Z product, I might say it was an affiliate as well, and you can earn something on the back of it too. Now, their fans are actually not necessarily looking for that, but creators earn money like that, so maybe they are. There's infinite possibility in terms of writing regulations around how you work with them. I think you can standardise across the board, but give lots of space to do it.
And you do have to give space, because that's the thing. You can't, and also you can't
impinge creativity.
No, and you also can't force athletes who aren't comfortable being creators to be creators. Let's also acknowledge that.
Absolutely.
Some don't want to do it, and that's also okay.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But those that do, you've got some athletes might want to do predominantly fitness content. You might have some athletes that talk about hair care and makeup. Whatever their passion is, actually, they should be allowed to share that in a
We've got a player
in a
at
genuine
Burnley,
way.
Connor Roberts, really into his woodwork. Now, I remember when he I'm saying this because I did a woodworking course.
Is this
I've gone down this woodworking rabbit hole now. Dan and I, my colleague, we went and did a woodworking course recently, like handmade wood. And it reminded me of Connor, because when he joined Burnley, there was quite a bit on his social channels about how he'd done a lot of woodwork. I've not seen anything since he joined, and I'm kind of like, but I'd love you to lean into doing more
what a
of
shame!
that.
I missed
Because there's so much you could do with that. And he looked like he was really good. But that opens up an audience, right? And he's got such a personality as well. So you can imagine, like, you can see it on the pitch, marrying his personality with his passion.
Yeah.
We don't.
I mean, that's
that.
gold dust.
Yeah.
That's real gold dust. Why would you want to stifle that? Athletes as creators, don't think it's going anywhere. If anything, it's going to happen more and more. But we're perhaps fair to say we're at an inflection point where the sporting organisations actually acknowledge it and start relaxing their approach to it, or I think you'll see some go rogue, and they will get so big that it will be a problem.
I think to summarise that, I think you're right. I think they've already embraced it before. But there's been marquee players that may have been signed for specific audiences in specific countries, or specific fans, specific countries, or for brand ambassadors for certain sponsors that they've got on board. Now we're at this new level of content creators that our athletes are. And you have to support them in it, and you have to let them be raw and emotional, but also give them the bound, don't bound them, but support them, be there. So if they do make a mistake and
you just made me think of something that literally happened this week. Alicia Lehmann left Juve off the back of great season, wins, and then goes to FC Como Women.
Yeah.
That is very much a challenger team, doing well, but stands on its own 2 feet as a brand. They want her because of what she can bring to FC Como Women.
I think you can do that in the women's game at the moment, because it's still growing. Men's game, I think it's more difficult, because I think it's always like, in developed games, and it's not just about men, right? In developed games or sports, it's going to be talent first. But the reality is these people are now becoming media companies.
Yeah.
And that's where we're seeing the real attention shift happening, right? I still don't think it's one or the other. I think that the organisations that they represent can really lean into what they're doing to help them to get their message out. It's
just a transition.
And I don't think that, like, at the moment, it's kind of like, say this please, but it's like, actually, if you get them involved in what you're trying to say, they'll be way more invested in it.
The interesting thing about Alicia Lehmann as well, because Juve's got a very well-established creator lab, and she's almost gone through that. She's done all of the training, and now she's taking it to FC Como. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing for Italian women's football, actually. I would imagine Juventus would be quite happy. But Como will be doubly happy, because I imagine in the next season, she's going to be their star athlete creator. They're actually going to lean on it quite heavily.
Cool. So to wrap up.
To wrap up then, so we think... Let your athletes be creators if they want to, if that's their thing. Let them talk about their niches, let them find their thing, and support them and comfort them that you would in any other way.
But even if you don't let them, they're probably going to do it anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Give them support and guidelines.
They're going to do it. You're down if you do, and you're down if you don't. So let them do it.
Cool.
So thank you for joining us on another episode of the Attention Shift podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you've got any suggestions for topics you'd like us to talk about, or any feedback, good or bad, email us at hello@theattentionshift.media. That's hello@attentionshift.media.
And feel free to feed back on Lee's Open.
Or the ending.
More cheese next time, or less cheese.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Next time.
That's it for this episode of The Attention Shift. Remember to like and subscribe, and listen in next time. And do let us know what you think. Email us at hello@attentionshift.media. So that's hello@attentionshift.media.